Yo, welcome loyal listeners. This is episode 19.
Holy crap.
Holy, of the Snapcast podcast with your host, Mike Cooley, Brad O'Brien. And we're here to talk with you guys today. We got some new stuff that was announced. We got, the sunsetting of the Planeswalker points. We're going to touch on that a little bit. We're going to touch on some gameplay, some random stuff, and just all of the stuff that you might be tuning into.
And magic.
That's right.
And magic cards.
And some really cool stuff. Like, did you guys know you can make a Planeswalker stay around with 0 loyalty on it? I didn't know that.
Learn more later. Right now, we're not playing a whole lot of games of Magic, and we're certainly not experiencing the Gathering.
Oh, yeah. Gatherings are severely limited. This is the stuff we think about in quarantine, man. We start comparing Magic to life and everything, and it's so crazy. We were just sitting there. You'd swear we were high or something. We're just sitting there in, like, the living room talking about conceptualizing Magic and comparing it to life and all of this stuff. It's so nuts, man.
You're talking about, like, jobs and education and careers and homes, and you're like, yeah, man, it's like a tournament. Yeah, man, it's like deck construction.
Yeah. Dude, it kind of, the conversation came about because I recently have been seeing some pretty significant changes in my life. More on this later as the story develops, but Brad has seen some significant things in his life, and we just kind of come to this conclusion that, like, the more you think about it, the more it's kind of like magic.
Well, and as a musician, one of the things that I've come to over and over again is if you know anything really well, you can relate it to something else. And if you're trying to explain something to somebody, if you have a point in common, if you know the thing well enough, you can make a relationship. And we know a fair bit about magic.
The comparisons are endless.
The comparisons are endless.
Dude, it's so crazy. So this is what it's all about, right? Like, whether you're talking about a job, a relationship, anything that you're in, right? Like any situation you're in, your best bet, wherever you are, is to be yourself, right? Is to be true to your identity and who you are. And we know that from playing Magic, that's kind of the only thing you can do. When you're in a tournament, when you're playing against other players, you have one identity in your deck. You've kind of committed to something, and you're going to try to take that and finish as good as you can with it.
Hold on 1 second. I'm just going to mute your mic and just fix that mic clip. Now you can reposition it.
Word. She better?
Yeah, I don't want that thing to fall out on you. Hit you right in the dink.
Yeah, so
we... And I think you pointed it out. You hear this a lot anecdotally that people say, oh, you should be yourself. And at the same time, there's a billion-dollar industry out there of self-help products on how to not be yourself.
So true. How to get your ex back. How to do things that you wouldn't usually do and make yourself look better.
How to look better, how to feel better, how to get rich, how to do whatever.
Right.
And it really is a hard thing to equate with being, because the other side of life, the internet and everything, tells you, be happy with who you are.
Right. It's so contradictory, the information. But yeah.
But with a Magic deck, once you show up to the event and you have your 75 in a competitive format, that's your 75. That's what you've got to work with. So equating it, when you're sitting there, this is my deck. I've got to make the most of it. You can be comfortable with yourself as you are. You're not going to win every game, but if you built that deck right, you have a good shot.
So to get real deep with some of our listeners, right? If you're struggling with something right now, if you're going crazy in the midst of this quarantine that we're going through and all of these rough times, just remember who you are, right? Like, the best thing to do is to rely on the things that have got you to where you're at, right? That have got you through to life. Be yourself, right? Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know what you have to sideboard in these rough times. That's
interesting, yeah.
Right? Like, I am a classic Affinity lover and player, and when I go to a tournament, I just know if I run into a control deck, this is what I got to sideboard in. Regardless of what deck I'm playing against, this is what I'm going to do game one. It's up to you to stop it. It's up to you to deal with it. If you don't, then I'm going to take this game over. You know what I mean? It's that sort of approach. It's so easy in these times to kind of lose sight of who we are and, forget what got us here. Sure, we're in a rough time, but the best thing that we can do is say, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses. This is what me as a person, this is what I'm trying to do. And this is what I know through my skill of being myself, of employing these things that I've learned. This can get me through. So a bit of advice from the Snapcast for anyone who might be struggling with something out there.
And to balance that out, you have to learn from game experience that, like they say, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. When I play against hardened skills over and over again and with humans and hope to have a different result, if I didn't change my sideboard, if I didn't, in the interim between matches, between events, put some time in,
Try something different.
to try something different,
Keep your core, but try something a little different.
that's balancing the idea of I'm comfortable with who I am right now, but I also know that there are areas that I can improve in.
It's a good point. I have enough faith in myself to know that I can get there. There's just slight changes I need to make along the way.
Right. And so looking at the strategy, because ultimately, and this is the life sort of deck building comparison that I make all the time. And there's a famous quote from Jean-Luc Picard: you can do everything right and still fail. You can do everything right and still lose. You put the things in your deck that you think are going to best serve you. Sometimes people talk about the skill sets and tools that we get from our parents or from our upbringing. All of those things are the cards in your deck. The education that you either had or seek out, if you learn something yourself online or apprentice or however you want to learn something, those are the cards that you're putting in your deck because you're hoping that's going to give you the most successful outcome.
Going to give you the best chance.
Yeah. You don't know what the deck is going to give you on any given turn when you turn over a card. You could be flooding and really need some action, and life is just not helping you out right now. But if you put the cards in your deck that you need to be successful, you're at least giving yourself an out.
Right. You always have that out. Like, you know that no matter how bad the situation's going, there is an out. Like, I do have an out, and that out is I know within my toolbox these things can happen. So hold on to that hope, loyal listeners. And, if you're struggling with anything during these times of, the crazy apocalypse that we're in, the quarantine, if it's driving you nuts, just remember, think about who you are, your skill set, and just know you're going to be okay. Because for so long, it got you where you are, and the world isn't going to change that much to the point where it's not still going to be valuable. So keep it up.
One thing that helps you get through quarantine is having a great companion.
You mean you, Brad?
I mean you, Mike. I looked at some of the Pioneer results recently. Dude, we thought companions were bad last week. Companions are ridiculous. Looking at the last 4 events on MTGO Top 8 for Pioneer.
This is nuts. There's
a Pioneer League from the 27th, a Pioneer Challenge from the 26th, a Pioneer League from the 23rd, a Pioneer Super Qualifier from the 23rd. Out of those 4 events, out of those 4 top 8s, so 24 decks, 4 were not playing a companion.
That's so crazy.
How long before Loris is banned?
Jeez, man. It's really hard to tell. I'm still confused as to whether or not it's Loris or is it the mechanic? You know what I mean? Should they just release more of these companions, or should they
all
ban
hail
Loris?
our companion overlords?
Right. Like, should they just imagine if, there's only so many companion cards out there. Just imagine if Magic only had, so many cards out there to play a deck. You'd see a repetitive amount of the best card in that set in so many decks. Like, you know what I mean? It's because there's no real better option. You know what I mean? It's not that that card is inherently busted. It's just there's no better options.
So if I said we could put Skull Clamp back in standard or modern,
No, I think that's a whole different issue. Like that's a whole different issue. Like unbanning something that has been proven to be a broken card on many levels. But like for example, what if they just what if they printed a nasty companion for like Storm or something? Like I mean they kind of already have, right? Like but at the same time, what if they just print more that are that favor collected company decks, or that favor something that is big in the metagame, and they choose to use that. They're right now as it stands. I think Lurrus is big because a lot of formats try to go for low mana cost cards. You know what I mean? It's throughout Magic history, it has been a strategy, a legitimate strategy to run lower mana cost cards in your deck and just get under your opponent and get there before they can set up effective defenses. So Lurrus just kind of plays into that. And that's why I think you see it in so many of these decks. But what if they made a commander that's just like, or not a commander, but a companion that's like a 1-drop.
I see what you did there.
Like, what if they just made a 1-drop 2/2 with haste that was similar to Goblin Guide, and they were just like, you have to run all red card. Every card in your deck has to have a mana identity that's red.
So what you're saying is the only thing that can beat a bad guy with a companion is a good guy with a companion?
Pretty much, man. This is a whole new tool. It's a very, very dangerous tool for sure, but I don't think it's ban worthy. I think it's just you should just provide more of them.
And I also agree that I think any bans would certainly be preemptive now, and we haven't had a paper tournament in months.
Right.
Like, I hope that we don't see anything banned before we see Paper Magic played again.
Oh yeah, like I think that would be a critical mistake.
Earlier tonight, we were talking with your buddy Mike, and he was talking about the standard metagame. And I'll tell you what, standard is great. I can lose with anything. Anything I want to play, I can lose with.
Really diverse format.
Really diverse format. It's actually pretty good.
And the crazy thing is like mono red is still legitimate in this format. Like non-companion mono red still like legitimate. Although there are better versions now, like Rakdos aggro with Obosh, the Pry Piercer, as the companion. What is that even? What is
Pry
that
Piercer? He's a 3/5 that all of your everything has to be. So this is a companion, Obosh the Prey Piercer. 3 Rakdos. Companion. Your starting deck contains only cards with odd converted mana cost and land cards. If a source you control with an odd converted mana cost would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that much damage instead. And to permanent or player, so you can attack a planeswalker for double damage.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
That's pretty sweet, man. Like, but tell me, if they keep bringing back companion, there wouldn't be something better than that printed for like a burn deck. You know what I mean? Like that's a good card.
But what I'm saying is, if they do, then every deck has to have a companion.
True.
Like if they beat this by printing out better, more competitive companions, then it will literally be every deck has 60 cards plus a 14-card sideboard plus their companion.
Which is true, but at the same time, think about it this way. Like, think about back in the days of Commander, where people would play these 5-color commanders just so that they could play any card that they needed to in their main deck to get to a combo. Like, I remember, distinctively going to some Commander tournaments where someone was running a 5-color commander that they never really planned on casting just to allow them to do certain other things. You know what I mean? I can kind of see it as that. Like, a companion, why not? You know what I mean? It's an effective tool, but I don't plan on casting it unless it's a really rare situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's just interesting.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of an Abzan Humans deck on Arena. I've been losing great with that. But doing some really fun things. One of the things that I like about that deck is we talked a lot about General Kudrow in previous episodes.
Good card.
Man, the incidental graveyard hate on that card in Standard is so good.
Especially where his Lurrus is really big. Like,
yeah.
Wow. So good.
So many times I'm just like, my opponent plays their Uro on turn 3. It comes back to me. I just play the general and exile the Uro. So, leaving the companion thing aside, I have been having fun playing Standard, even though I will jokingly say I could lose with anything. I've been trying to play a lot of sort of jank decks and playing that Abzan Humans list. I've been playing the Green-White Enchantments deck, losing a bunch with both of those. So I go to MTG Goldfish and look at the top performing decks in the meta, and it's like Rakdos Sacrifice and Temur Reclamation. So I build those. I play 3 or 4 games. Can't win a goddamn game. So then I go back to Green-White Enchantments and win 3 in a row.
Yeah.
And then lose 3 in a row.
God. Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. Like, it's so diverse. But, I mean, I guess that's good because it favors players that are really good and really consistent with their decks, which is something that you rarely see in Standard, I think. So, good for them.
One of the things that I will point out, another sort of interesting news item for those of us that do use MTG Goldfish to look up deck lists, they have shortened their main screen to popular decks from the last 7 days. It used to be the last 30 days.
Wow. That's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. And I think that is a response specifically to everybody playing online and the meta shifting so frequently.
Yeah. Especially when a new set is dropped or a new card, makes an impact on a metagame. With a lot of sites, it's really hard to sift through, okay, like when did these decks come out? When did these results post? You know what I mean? That's really cool.
Yeah, and you can change it. So you can say, what are the most popular decks in the last 365 days, 90 days,
oh, that's cool.
30 days, 14 and 7. But if you're thinking, okay, I haven't played on Arena in 2 weeks. What is even going on in there?
You can just check it out.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Although, actually, I don't know if they get any Arena data. I might be talking out of my ass.
Well, no, they'll have Standard data, though, which is 90% of what people play on Arena.
Yeah.
So they'll be able to see that. And I'm sure that, I'm not sure if they pull Arena data in the sense of, like there's not many huge tournaments with Arena. Is there? Like, it's just mainly...
One of the things that is becoming more popular is that they're allowing people to third-party host events. So, like, Jeff Hoogland just had a sort of invitational tournament.
The Hoogland Invitational.
And letting other organizations run tournaments through Arena.
Wow.
So
that is cool.
That is cool.
Kind of opens up the door for, like, local gaming stores to run F&Ms on Arena.
Yeah, well, ours is trying.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Scott Lavoie posted in Game Citadel Magic Community. Reading. Rakdos Luris, Obosh Sacrifice, Temur Reclamation, Winota. Oh my God, do I hate that card.
Winota? What is it?
It's like the only human they've printed that I absolutely hate. So, Winota, the Joiner of Forces...
Oh, yeah.
2 red-white, legendary creature, human warrior. Whenever a non-human creature you control attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library.
Busted.
You may put a human creature card from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. It gains indestructible until end of turn.
Wow.
Put the rest of the cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, so you need to attack with a non-human, and then you can sift through your deck to find a human.
Yeah, but if this is like... Oh, wow, that's...
It is weird. But you know what all these decks are running? They're running 4 main deck Agent of Treachery. And so, on turns 1 or 2, they might just play a couple of tap lands. Or on the end of turn 2, they might play... End of turn 3, they might play Raise the Alarm.
Yeah.
Untap, play their 4th land, play Winota. Swing with 2 soldiers that are not human soldiers, they're just soldiers.
Oh, wow.
They get 2 triggers. So they look at the top 6, grab an Agent of Treachery, put it on the board, steal your blocker. Then the second trigger, look through the next 6 cards, get another Agent of Treachery,
Wow.
put it onto the battlefield, steal your other blocker, and then they're singing with the 2 Agent of Treacheries because they come in tapped and attacking and are indestructible, so you can't remove them in response.
Wow.
This deck is gross. It's glass cannon, but it's gross.
Yeah.
And I don't like it.
Wow. It's very interesting. Wasn't there, is Agent of Treachery the one I'm thinking about? They exile something. When you have 3 or more cards exiled, you win the game. Yeah.
No, that's a different card. That's a Trata the Silencer.
Ah, okay. At the beginning of your end step, if you don't control 3 or more opponents, you... Oh, okay. It allows you to draw 3 cards. If you control 3 or more permanents you don't own. So if you take a mutated creature with this guy...
I think that's still 1 permanent.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, man. I listened to a whole... Who are the commander guys? Jimmy and Josh. The Command Zone. I listened to a whole podcast episode just about devoted to the mutate mechanic. It's gross. Like,
yeah.
the interactions with that. So you mentioned or you were talking about a Trata the Silencer. That's a one-shot win. If somebody has a mutate pile and you exile those 3 cards, you win.
So how exactly does that card read? It just says if you exile something when it comes into play.
No, let's look at it.
Okay.
Because this card is tricky, and I think you have to Trata the Silencer.
Wonder if this card's gonna go up with this mutate mechanic.
I don't think so.
51 cents.
4 mana, 3/5, Vampire Assassin. It's 2 blue-black. It cannot be blocked. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you exile a creature they control and put a hit counter on it. If at some point you have exiled 3 or more of their permanents with hit counters, they lose the game.
Okay, so all right, so we read about this post, and I'm questioning if it does it work that way.
I can explain now that I have gotten myself edumacated.
All right.
In play, a mutated creature stack is a permanent. If you do this, a Trata, you attack, you exile that creature, it exiles the stack of cards. In all other zones, they are unique cards. So when they go to the unique zone, in this case exile, each one of those cards would have had a hit counter on it.
Odd.
It's
really odd.
And this is and there's so many interactions with mutate. Mutate will be the bane of Judge's existence from now till eternity, because when you trying to think, there are so many weird interactions. Like, you actually get death triggers if you have a commander and then you mutate on it and they kill it, Doomblade it or whatever. They all go to the graveyard, and then you say, I'm going to put my commander in the command zone. You still get the death trigger.
Right. Yep. Because is that how it works? Because, yeah, you can choose for it to go to the grave, and then when it goes to the grave, you can choose for it to go to the command zone. Okay. It doesn't go there instead. Yeah. It goes there and there. Like, it goes to the grave and the command zone. Well, because
part of the creature goes to the graveyard. And another interesting thing that they taught me in that lesson in that episode is that if your commander is any part of a mutate stack, it deals commander damage. It doesn't matter if it's the bottom bunny or the top bunny or whatever.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because that creature still contains your commander.
Wow. God, that's so ridiculous. This is just... That is the bane.
All of these cards that have been printed in the last 3 years that have,
It's just so nuts. I would figure with this a Trata the Silencer that whatever the name of the card was that was exiled would be the one that gets the counter. But apparently it's not the one that works that way. All of them get the counter. God, that's so ridiculous. So you exile a mutated creature with 3 dudes and they just friggin' lose. So, okay, to read this out,
adapting our technology to best serve a modern framework. On May 27th, 2020, we'll be sunsetting Planeswalker Points, removing access to the Planeswalker Points website. Planeswalker Points, including login using your DCI number, will be available until May 27th. After that day, you will no longer acquire Planeswalker Points, and you will be unable to access Planeswalker Points history information. So that means you can't see who you beat, who you lost against, and blah, blah, blah.
You can't look at previous matches, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I'll tell you what. Nobody ever talked about it until Wizards announced they were going to remove the DCI. And then all of my social media has been flooded with people talking about, oh, here's the one time that I played against Brian Braun. Here's the one time that I played against XYZ.
Jim Davis. I got 2 of them against Jim Davis on my records.
Yep.
This guy's famous now, and I knew him before he was famous. I played against him before he was famous and then after he was famous, and there was a big difference of number of players at the table after he was famous. Not kidding you. Like, so I played him first. Actually, both times I played him was in Massachusetts. I think he lived up there at the time, or close to there. So every time I went to Massachusetts, I would see the guy. The first time I saw him, this was before he was famous. I remembered him. He was just a memorable guy. And like, he was cool. Like, I could tell he didn't talk much. I remember that. And like, I always try to gauge my opponent, and you know me, I always try to mess with him and be like,
play your opponent.
Yeah, I play my opponent, and I'm just like, here's this goofy looking guy. Like, I'm playing Legacy, and I'm just like, yep, I'm gonna get in this guy's head. He barely looked at me. He just like understood the board state and was just like, yep, I know what I'm gonna do. And he was so hard to read. I was like, this kid, I don't understand him. Like, I don't know what he's gonna do. He called the judge over. I remember this. This was the situation. I played a Chain Lightning on him because I'm running Rug Delver at the time, and he's running Burn. No, he played a Chain Lightning on me. He's running Burn. I'm running Rug Delver. And before he played the Chain Lightning, I remember him sitting there. He's looking at his cards, looking at the board, looking at my mana. And he's like, Judge. And I'm like, what? What's going on here? Did I mistap something? Like, he's kind of getting in my head at that point. I'm like, what just happened? Like, why are you calling a judge over? And after he called the judge over, he probably had a 5-minute conversation with him. And then after this is all said and done, he's like, Chain Lightning? And I looked at my mana, and I have potentially 2 red open. And I'm like, that's why he called the judge over. He's wondering if I'm casting a spell. And like, he has a Monastery Swift Spear on the board. So I don't know exactly what the question was, but it probably had something to do with like, is he casting the spell? Is the copy casted or something? Like, what's going on? Can he do this? Like, if he does this, can I respond this way? What happens? Like, I would imagine the question probably boiled down to, does the trigger for Swift Spear resolve before this spell resolves?
Right before you redirect
before I redirect it and hit his Monastery Swift Spear is probably what his question was, which the answer is yes.
Right,
Yeah,
because
it definitely
prowess
does.
trigger goes before the spell is even, it's
Right.
not on the stack, it's just the cast trigger.
But knowing him now, I'm like, he's such a good player. Like, no, in retrospect, looking back, I always have wondered if that, like, I always assumed that was the question that he asked, but I wonder now if it really was, because he's a really good player.
So Jim, if you're listening, or if somebody that knows him is listening, hook us up.
Yeah, man, let us know. What the hell was that question that you asked? Do you remember? Do you remember me? Like, I doubt it. You've probably played far more Magic than I did, so the event was probably far more memorable for me than it was for you. But this was before he was famous, like before he started streaming. I remember him. I'm like, he's such a memorable guy. Like, just one of those matches you don't forget. Like, I don't know. So it's no doubt that he's like, successful in streaming. He has a good personality, man. He's a really good, memorable guy. But the second time when I played him, it was hilarious, dude. Like, I finally got to him. Like, I finally got to him in one way or another. It didn't work in my favor or anything, but I could tell I was effed. Like, I was out of the match. Like, and I knew at this point who he was because I'd watched his streams. And the only reason I started watching his streams is because I'm like, I played against him. Like, I know who he is, And so I'm playing Dredge. He's playing Control. We're at a Legacy match. And I whooped him the first game. I was just like, yeah, what's up? I just beat Jim Davis. I'm gonna get a win over Jim Davis. And game 2.
You never had your card.
Dude, no. Dude, game 2. I was new to Dredge. I admittedly wasn't as good as I was with other legacy or, any other more comfortable format for me type of deck. And game 2, he freaking slams the 2/2 flash guy that says if a creature would come into play and it wasn't cast, exile it instead. And I was like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna fight through this. And then I noticed, I was like,
I can't fight through this.
That card's really bad for me. I was like, that card hoses me. I was like, I'm dead. And he just slowly beats me down with like angels or something. But I was like, okay. And it was so funny because, again, mind you, I know who he is at this point. I conceded game 2. I was like, yeah, I don't think I can beat that dude. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm talking to him. He's still stoic as ever. We're not at like one of the feature match tables or anything. He's still stoic as ever. He's just like, okay. Like, okay. Game 3. So game 3, I'm like, all right, I know what to do. I know what he's playing. Like, I know what his game plan is. I know what his hate is. I'm going to do this. And so I go, I don't know if it was a trick. He actually, this is what I really liked about him, is he complimented me on my play afterwards. He was like, that was probably your best choice. He's like, if I was in your spot, I might have done the same thing. Like, that was a good choice. I had a turn 1 Cabal Therapy. So I had a choice. I go Cabal Therapy, and I was just wondering if it resolved, because in Legacy, you have Force of Wills, you have, at the time we didn't have Force of Negation, but I was like, he might just Force of Will this if he has, my logic was, if he has the card that just hosed me in his hand, he's going to force this. So I was like, Cabal Therapy? And he's like, sits there for a minute, and he's thinking about it, and I can tell he's kind of rocked by like my turn 1 play. Not rocked, but like truly in the tank about it. And he's like, yeah, resolves. And I was like, so you clearly don't have the 2/2 in your hand that hoses me. So it was like, because otherwise you wouldn't have let that resolve. Or like
he doesn't have.
Yeah, exactly. Like he played me, dude. He played me. He was like, he made me think he had a Force of Will. I think he actually did have a Force of Will. So I was like, I can either call Force of Will, or I can call the best card in his deck, which is Brainstorm. And I was like, so he clearly doesn't have the 2/2. And I was like, kept second guessing myself, because as the spell's resolving, now I'm rocked. I'm like, why did you think about that? Like, what are you hiding that you're questioning whether or not I'll call? And I was like, so understanding he's Jim Davis and he's probably trying to next level me, I was like, how do I next level Jim Davis? And he next leveled me by keeping the 2-drop in his hand that hosed me and thinking that I wouldn't call it because he was in the tank about it. And he was right. Like, he was right. I did not call
Brainstorm.
I called Brainstorm because I was like, he will likely think that I'm going to call this card, and that's why he didn't force this. He did have a Force of Will, and he did have the 2-drop. He did not have a Brainstorm, but he drew a Brainstorm. So at the end of my next end step, he's like, yeah, end step, fetch Brainstorm. I was like, damn. I go, one turn too late, huh? And he like kind of smiled a little bit, like he kind of caught the sense of humor. And then turn 2 slams the dude, and I'm like, I'm dead. Yeah. Like, there's nothing I can do. So like, it was so funny. He then this is where I kind of got to him, right? I had dredged some cards at that point, and he surgical extracted one of my dredgers. And it was funny because he asked me, he goes, as he's looking through my deck, because like as he cast surgical extraction, I handed my deck over to him. Even though he's Jim Davis, I'm still going to game him. You have to ask me to like look at my hand and look at my library. You know what I mean? So I handed my library over to him and put my hand on my side of the table face down. And it was just like, if he doesn't look at it, like, you know what I mean? I'm not winning this game either way. But he's like, yeah, can I see your hand too? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hand it over to him. And searches the hand, like, you know, I kept it revealed because at that point I'm like, he's Jim Davis, like, you know, he's cool, dude. And he rifles through the deck and he finds another copy of, another 2 copies, I think, of the dredge card that he had exiled. And then he asks me, he goes, just 3? So then I was like, well, technically I don't have to tell you, sir. But I said, I suppose since I watch your stream, I will tell you, yes, there is only 3 copies of that card in my deck. like I knew I was hosed at that point. Like technically you don't have to answer that question. Like, you know what I mean? If they say
like
just
all
just
information is available to them.
Right. All information is available to them. If they fail to find the card in your deck, then it still exists in your deck. You know what I mean? You can still have it.
Yeah.
If they failed to remove it, it's still in your deck. So like against really any other player, I would have been like, is that all you see? Like haven't really questioning it, going through it. You know what I mean? But he's cool, man. He's just a cool dude. I liked him, you know, when I first met him, the first game that we played, and the second game when he was like famous. There's at that point, there's like, I don't know, 8 to 10 people gathered around our like tier 2 table is what I call it. Like you're not on camera. It's just like some famous guy you're playing against. There's like 8 to 10 people gathered around, and he's just like, just 3. And I was like, technically I don't have to answer that question, but whereas I watch your stream, I will say yes, there's just 3 in there. I'm hosed in this game. Like I'm dead. I'm just going to play this out because I'm playing with Jim Davis, and I appreciate you, big guy. And he finally laughed. He like opened up and blah, blah, blah. And then we had a conversation after the match. I was like, hey man, how's the house move going? Like, you know, which I didn't know if it would be awkward because, you know, they
like, I've never met you, but I know all about you.
Yeah, I know this stuff about you.
I
and
actually
like,
creep on you online. No, you're a public figure.
Yeah, he was really cool. He like, you know, talked about it. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, we're still kind of, you know, renovating it and all of this stuff. And I was like, that's cool. I just bought a house like, you know, in 2017. It's a really good feeling. Like, you know, how do you feel being a homeowner and all of this stuff? He was just really cool, opening up about it, man. He's a really good guy.
So one of the reasons why we're talking about Jim right now is with this whole sunsetting of the DCI, Jim is a guy that obviously has a long history of playing Magic, and he has a great video up on his YouTube channel that's him playing through or talking through some of the highlights of his history as a player, because in a couple of weeks, that information is not going to be available to us anymore. You're not going to be able to log back on to the Duelist Convocation International website.
We should have saved that. We should have asked people, do you know what DCI even stands for?
I'm even wondering. I'm like, did I get that right? Duelists Convocation International.
Yep.
The official sanctioning body of competitive Magic.
Yep.
To a history spent with the game. Like Magic players identify personally as Magic players. Like that's a part of it is this self-expression of the game that we love so much. You know, these are my deck boxes. This is my play mat. This is my deck. This is what I play humans, and it is boiled out. and so I have my DCI number, and you have people that are like, I have a 4-digit DCI number.
Yeah, those were epic, man.
Like, I've been in this game so long. I have a custom license plate with my DCI number on it. I have my DCI number memorized. People are so passionate about this game and the bragging rights that somehow are associated with either that length of time you've been in the game or whatever. And you always could log in and look at your match history for all the sanctioned events you played in. And I've never heard about anybody doing it until this week.
Yeah.
Here's Jim Davis, and I'll just throw up a screenshot. He did a whole YouTube video on going through my life in Magic, and it's multi-part. So this is 2 hours and 3 minutes. My Life of Magic, Part 1, from Jim Davis. From Magic Online Grinder to Pro Tour Regular, DCI match history.
Look at this. He still lives in the Massachusetts area. Look at all these convention centers he's going to. Boston Convention Center.
That's 2000. Oh, yeah, that's 2020.
Yep. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he still lives there, dude. He ain't moved into that house yet, Jim. What's up?
Totally stealing this from another podcast, and I sent you a one-word message on Facebook, and now I'm going to have to look it up. Because there is a land that allows you to move a counter from a permanent to another permanent. What the hell did I say to you?
I'm looking it up now.
Nesting grounds.
Yeah, that was all you said. There was no explanation. And then there was a screenshot of one of our videos getting a copyright strike. Look, I'm getting off my soapbox. Cut your music, all right, Brad?
I'm just wondering how many little clips can we include before we get in trouble with YouTube. Let's not talk about that. Oh, you know what? That's a whole nother thing we can talk about.
Oh, yeah,
and we'll cut that in later. So Nesting Grounds was a Commander 2020 card. Taps for a colorless. 1 tap. Move a counter from target permanent you control onto another target permanent. Activate this ability only time you can cast a sorcery.
This
is going to be $1 million card.
This is a really good card.
Especially since Wizards just introduced ability counters. How would you like to give Sarkhan the Masterless lifelink?
Or just some random creature they didn't expect death touch. Like, god damn. That's rough.
How would you like, what's an enchantment that deals damage to creatures or players?
Dude, you could put it on Pyrohemia or what's the real black card that does that? It's the same thing as Pyrohemia, but it's a black enchantment for 4. Pestilence. You could put it on Pestilence and pay 1 mana, deals 1 damage to each creature in play.
Yeah.
Everything dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Except for your indestructible dude, and then you don't have to sacrifice Pestilence. We're playing some mental magic over here. Wow, that's cool.
So I remember when we first started talking about Ikoria, we looked at the keyword counters and we were like, But when you think, okay, they have printed this year a card that will let you move any counter onto another permanent.
Yeah.
What can you come up with to put on a permanent you wouldn't think of?
Yeah. I mean, instantly what came to my mind was the time counters and the age counters or whatnot, but there's so many other possibilities.
Oh, which reminds me, you man up your Gideon and swing and mutate on it. It stays a creature.
No way.
With Planeswalker abilities and it won't die at 0 loyalty.
Wow. Wow. Bet you didn't know.
Bet you didn't know.
You mutate a Planeswalker, it's always a creature.
If that Planeswalker can be a creature.
Right.
Oh, wait. Can't do it with Gideon because he's a human. So
yes, has to be a non-human.
Has to be a non-human.
So, is there any Planeswalkers you can do that with?
The one that I heard about in the conversation that I heard was Sarkhan because he makes dragons.
He makes dragons. Does he?
He becomes
a dragon. Yep. Wow.
And he can make other planeswalkers a dragon.
Oh wow.
So if you make all of your planeswalkers dragons and then
wow,
live in magical Christmas land and do really fun things. If you're gonna lose anyway, you might as well lose doing really fun things, right?
Yeah, it's just so crazy to think about. Like all of these new mechanics, whether or not these things we're talking about become competitive, it's just something crazy to think about. Like,
this is why Magic is still the game that it is.
Yeah. Like, how do you even prepare for the infinite possibilities there are out there? Like, that's just why you can still have these rogue meta-breaking decks that no one can prepare for. Like, I didn't expect that. I didn't even know about this interaction. Like, wow. That's cool. That's really cool.
So, I would say in the whole snap this up, if you don't own a copy of Nesting Grounds, which you probably wouldn't because it was just played this year, it might be worth getting one.
Yeah, and it's like $8, a little over $8. That doesn't seem bad for like the quality that you get with this card.
Well, and it is a Commander Legacy only card.
Yeah, that's not bad at all, man. That seems good. I mean, that just seems really good. Huh.
You had speaking of a land that players should pick up, you had one too.
Oh yeah, this was just, I noticed what this card was at for a price and I instantly bought a playset just because, I mean, I've never used the card. I don't plan on using it in the near future, but I sure as hell don't want to pay the price that it was previously at for what this card is. So Gilt-Leaf Palace is the card I'm talking about. This card used to be like $30. I mean, this was a time in recent Magic history. This card was $30. And at the time, I was like, yeah, that's really cool. I get it. It was printed in Lorwyn, and there was a, as everybody knows, there was a limited print run then. Like, it was a darker time, less popular time of Magic. But, dude, Gilt-Leaf Palace is now $3. You can get them for under $3 even if you really shop around. I bought my playset for $12, and I don't feel bad about it.
These were reprinted in the Mystery Booster product that just came out that has already died off.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, $3 for this card that was $30. there's a 90% discount, dude. It's probably not going lower than that. I mean, it's a land that taps for, black or green. And basically if you reveal an elf when it comes into play, or else it comes in tapped. But okay, cool. Like, no big deal. You know what I mean? That's not a terrible drawback right there. Like, especially if you're running an elf deck. Like, that's really, really good. So I don't know. It was just one of those cards that, like, I noticed was a staple at one point in Modern, which means, as with any deck, it has a potential to circle back around. And if it does, man, this was a $30 card at one point. Like, paying $12 for a play set of these, that's just stupid. Like, you might as well.
Any Magic player that thinks about finance in any sense says, oh man, I can't believe this card shot back up. I know so many players that looked at Force of Will when that got reprinted, or Mana Drain when that got reprinted, and said, oh, I'm going to wait. I can't really afford it right now. It'll go down. And now they're right back. Like, pew.
They're more expensive than they ever were.
And what it comes down to is, when there's a reprint like this mystery booster product that came out, now's the time to buy these cards.
Yeah. It not only do they introduce more copies into the market, but because of that, they stimulate the interest in those formats. So that's also something to think about. It isn't like the interest in those formats dies down when they reprint these cards. The interest in the format grows, and therefore, very quickly with some of these cards, you'll see a rebound in price. And I just think at less than $3 per Gilt Leaf Palace, it can't really go much lower than that, right? Like, I mean, it's so good. It's a dual land, basically. If you're playing an elf deck, this is a dual land. Just comes right into play. Bam. Taps for one color or the other. It's really good. And even if you're playing this in Commander and you happen to run some number of elves in your deck, it's just not a bad card, man. It's just really good. So snap this stuff up. Staying on the land theme, I will say that, again, now, I think the last cast, you had a pretty high dollar snap this up. Oh, yeah.
This is a Brad high dollar snap this up. Wooded Foothills from Khans of Tarkir. You can get them for under $20 a piece. Green-red decks are killing it in Pioneer and Modern online right now. When you look at MTG top 8 most played cards in the format, this is actually the most played fetch, according to their numbers, right now in the format. And that's really, it's an affordable fetch land in green and red. If you don't have them, when we saw the announcement of the Secret Lair fetch lands, this is not in there.
This ain't one of them.
This is not one of them. So when they talk about those are coming out, and that's going to bring supply to the market, and then they're also going to release more in a different product. They're probably not going to release all 10.
Nope. And this is often seen as one of those off-color fetches that, it's inherently less desirable. But if you look at the data, it's just as, if not more desirable than any other fetch this in the modern format. So good pick. Like, I think this is flying under the radar right now. Wooded Foothills. You can get them for under $20, probably around $20 if you're paying for shipping or whatnot. But it seems to be a pretty good pickup. Like, when the market finally catches up with this, especially when people are allowed to kind of start playing more paper Magic, I think you're going to see a very quick spike in this card. People are just going to be looking for it. They're going to be looking for, to trade for this card when they can socially interact with people. And, hey, do you have any Wooded Foothills? Like, I think that's a great pick. I think you're going to see this go up. We have a lot of land picks in our pick this stuff up section.
Yeah, we really did. As far as a flashback, we haven't done a flashback in a minute.
Flashback last week, if you would have picked up Grim Monoliths, they've already seen a $30 increase. Like, they're just, yeah, it's ridiculous, man.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Flashback.
I mean, sometimes we're kind of all over the map sometimes with the prices that we, say pick this stuff up at, but it's just a genuine, unbiased, like, hey, if you can get these at this price, you probably should. You know what I mean? We are, if we're going to do like a flashback in general, we've been right about a lot of this stuff. Even some of the stuff I will admit that I didn't agree with Brad on, such as Ancient Tomb. I did not agree with him on that. I said, this is, $30. This is the most I've ever seen it. I don't know why you're saying pick this up. That has also gone up. Is it a huge, significant price difference? Not necessarily, but,
But it's gone up from when we talked about it.
Exactly. It's gone up from when we talked about it. Just, ever so slightly, just creeping up. I think it was around $30. It was like between 25 and 28.
Yeah, I feel like it was around 25.
Yeah. And now you can't get them for under $30, $30, $32, $33. Like,
yeah, 33. This one's 28 with $5 shipping.
Yep. You can't get them for that nowadays. So good pick there. I have to say, you were right. I didn't see this card going up. I still don't understand why it's going up. Possibly just so people can cast their Grim Monoliths quicker. Who knows? But
I spent all this money on Grim Monoliths, damn it. I'm going to play it. And man, we are just all about the lands right now because my flashback is Fabled Passage.
Hell yeah.
We talked about this a lot in like the first 5 casts.
Yes, man.
And again, looking at MTG Top 8, most played cards in the standard format, Fabled Passage.
I mean, by far, too.
79% of decks.
79% of decks have Fabled Passage in them.
Looking at Pioneer. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, not as extreme.
3-way tie, just about.
Fabled Passage, Breeding Pool, and Thoughtseize share the top slot.
Only one of those cards is under $13 right now. Guess which one?
The one we told you to get a month ago or
Yep.
2 months ago.
Yeah. And hell, if you even bought them back then and you paid $15 or $20, I wouldn't feel bad about it. Like,
No.
now that they're at this price, I will now concede and go get 4 Fabled Passages because I don't think they're going to go below this. Like,
Well, and now the Challenger decks have been released.
oh yeah. Yeah, they're out there. The price is going to drop slightly right now, but get them, dude. I mean, when your competition in that format is Breeding Pool and Thoughtseize tied at the number 1 spot, Thoughtseize spiked up to $40. You might be able to get some copies for like 30, but still, Breeding Pool is spiking up to $30, and Fabled Passage is just sitting pretty now after a reprint at like $12, $13. Like, it's probably not going lower than that. And if it does, it will definitely rebound. This card is going to be very resilient in price, no matter how many reprints it
They're
gets.
not going to print a better fetch land into Pioneer.
Exactly.
They're just not.
That's a good point.
Awesome hanging with you again, Mike.
Dude, absolutely, man. We hope you guys are doing well and hanging tough out there.
I just thought of something else I wanted to put in.
Jam it.
Dude, we finally made it on YouTube.
We finally did.
We got our first snarky comment.
Yes.
We had a comment from a viewer that watched our unboxing video. We did our very first unboxing video, and it has been well received. We got some great constructive feedback.
We're not criticizing you for your constructive criticism.
No, not at all.
Thank
Actually,
you.
it's
We appreciate
hilarious, and like I said, it's almost like an internet milestone when somebody says, "I like what you did, but I didn't like how you did it." And to be fair, anybody that watched that video knows. Anybody that watched that video knows. My camera went terribly out of focus, and I didn't realize it until it was too late. And I didn't want to go back and reshoot the whole thing. I mean, the magic was gone.
Right.
But I do promise that in the future, when we do the next unboxing video, we'll have a nice crisp shot for you. And I really appreciate that feedback of the person. And actually, why don't we give him a shout out? Fill some time, Mike.
Absolutely. Also, on this note of people commenting and different types of videos, we also have some other ideas that we want to do with this channel, and we'd love your feedback on it. We were thinking about, I had just ordered a high-end gaming computer that should be in here at some point. And of course, what do you do with a high-end gaming computer? You just want to stream Arena. You just want to make some Arena videos. Is that something you guys would be interested in? If we started uploading some of our matches on Arena, maybe even some of our highlights, is that something you guys would want to see from us?
definitely, I always welcome criticism and feedback on that. I'm obviously not the best Magic player in the world, but I have fun with it.
I might consider chipping in there as well with some streaming of humans on Moto and humans now in Standard and Historic on Arena. There are enough humans there to make a viable deck, I think. So we could ramp up the content with some streams, and if that's something that you'd be interested in, comment below.
Let us know.
I will say, because of the comments that we got on that unboxing video, I will do more of that. Maybe Mike can be here for some of that as well, but the nice thing about that is we can do that at any point during the week. So shout out to viewer MK. Thanks for posting yours, but your camera quality and focus are awful. Dude, you're right, and we're going to fix that. Thank you.
Thank you, MK.
And with that,
peace out.
Stay healthy.
Take care of yourselves.
Remember, spread the podcast, not the plague.